And today we're talking about putting a process in place and taking the emotion out of site selection by utilizing my location viability calculator and site tracker. So if you're checking out new markets, or maybe you're just wondering how you can scale without blowing up what you already built, this is the episode for you. All right, guys, welcome back to Close Monday, the real world playbook for today's restaurant entrepreneurs, where we cover what actually moves the needle, smarter site selection, and tech-enabled growth. I'm Kyle and Sarah. I've lived all sides of this business, first as an operator, now as a real estate advisor, where I help emerging restaurant brands grow smarter, not bigger just for the sake of growing. This episode is brought to you by 10rep, the fractional real estate team, helping emerging restaurants scale smarter with expert site selection and strategy. And now we also offer, finally, one-off site analysis reports. So if you're considering a new location or just want a second opinion before you sign that lease, shoot me an email at kyle@10rep.co. That will also be in the show notes, so you can check it out there. And guys, this will be the best $100 you spend. I think we're charging $99 for these site reviews. It will give you a complete analysis of the site, including the demographic breakdown, consumer expenditures in the market for your day part. So it'll tell you exactly how much money has been reported being spent on food and beverage for a particular day part, being breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So whatever is relevant for your concept. Plus, we'll give you all the competitor analysis in that market. So it'll be a huge help when it comes to really putting some thought behind a particular site. So check that out. Again, the links will be in the show note, and let's get into the site tracker. And now, all right, if you guys listen to the show every week and you haven't subscribed or you haven't left a review, I need to ask you for that favor right now. I know that a lot of you guys listen to the show and don't do it. I don't do it for the shows I listen to, so I get it. But in order to support what we're doing, the simplest and totally free way to do that is by hitting the subscribe button and or leaving a quick review. And it's something that I have, quite frankly, completely ignored for the first 5 years of doing the show, but I have recently learned why it's important. So when you subscribe or leave a review, the algorithms, the platforms take notice, which means they push the show out to more people see the show, we can attract bigger guests, and we can level up our production. If you do that for me, my promise to you is that I will do everything in my power to make sure this show gets better every single week. We have a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss, and we need your help in getting the show out to more people. So we'll read your feedback, we'll bring on the guests you want to hear from, and we'll continue to improve the show. Thank you so much for your continued support. It really means a lot. Now, this will be mainly a visual episode, so if you guys are listening in the car, you're going to want to check out the video that's going to be on Spotify and on YouTube. But if you just want to listen, maybe we'll remind you to go check it out. Obviously, please feel free to do so. But this will be a screen share situation, so make sure you check out the Spotify and the YouTube version to really get a feel for it. And a link for the actual tracker is in the show notes, so you can download it there. Okay, here it is. It's a basic Google Sheet, but it has a lot of power behind it. And this is actually the tool that I use when I'm analyzing sites for my clients. Just 2 days ago, we used a very similar version. This is obviously a Google shareable version, but I have a platform that I use to do the exact same thing. So I rebuilt it here for you guys. And when I'm telling you this is what the biggest brands that you know out there are doing, this is what they're doing. Okay, so I made it as simple as possible, as customizable as possible. And obviously, as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out into my DMs or send me an email that's, again, linked in the show notes. So enough rambling. Let's just kind of get into what this is all about. All right. So if you guys have downloaded anything before from other creators or from somebody where you need to work with something that they created, the first thing you're going to want to do here is copy this sheet. So when you do that, you just got to go through File, make a copy, and then you can save it on your Google Drive, and you can do whatever you like to do with it from there. And in here, at the bottom, you have the viability calculator, and you have the tracking sheet. So pretty basic, pretty simple stuff, but I want to just make sure you understand exactly how to use it so you're going to maximize the functionality and make better decisions. And I will tell you that if by any chance you are struggling with this, don't worry, just continue to play with it. It'll start to make sense because odds are that means you're probably not considering all the criteria that you should be when it goes into analyzing a site. So one of the first things that we're going to look at here is how to enter your data. So in here on the viability calculator, you'll see I have 3 different calculators essentially, and they all have the criteria listed here: demographics, foot traffic, competition, accessibility, visibility, parking, area amenities, and rent expense. Now, I will say I do have access to tools that I can use that are paid for out of pocket, that are very costly and don't really make a lot of sense for individual operators. So I did my best to provide some of the details around where you can find a lot of those resources for free. Most of these resources for free. They'll take a little bit of digging, but once you have it, you'll have it. And I think it'll be a tremendous asset to you. So before we get into that calculator, the free tools are on the bottom here. The demographics, you can find demographics for a particular market. The U.S. Census Bureau has a website that has demographic data for all regions in the U.S. The foot traffic, Google Maps, Popular Times, very, very, very helpful tool in understanding what are the peak times in a particular area, particular market, particular site even. So that's helpful. The competition, honestly, guys, Google My Business pages. You can create your own custom Google map where you can pinpoint, all the different competitors in your market. So if you want to know where all the Chipotles are, all the pizza places are, all the coffee shops, you can do that. That's very simple to do. You can just YouTube a video, and you can create your own map, customizable map. They're really actually very great. And that is really gets you like halfway there. So you have the data, and when it comes to the foot traffic, you have the demographics, and now you have an idea where the competition is. Now, when you get into more detailed specifics like the site itself, things like accessibility and visibility, again, Google, Street Views. You can walk around the whole project. You can see exactly what's going on there. Google Earth is also another fantastic tool. And while you have that open, you can also access the parking. Take a look at what's existing in terms of the parking, and then you can go to the local municipality's website to see what the parking requirements are. Now, I will give you a major hack when it comes to these lengthy zoning reports or documents that these towns have. You can create a chat GPT where you upload the entire document and you can use it as a searchable resource. So once you load up your town's zoning stuff, you put it in there, and if you have a question, just say, what is the parking requirements for this particular address? And it will tell you. Guys, I cannot even, the joy that I feel when I log into that and realize that I can do it, it's a phenomenal time saver. And it's just, how I feel about AI. So that's a fantastic resource there. And then in terms of rents, your best bet is to kind of just look at LoopNet. You can even look at Zillow, I believe, has some commercial listings, but that will give you an idea as to what's out there. And some of them, most of them, it depends on what market you're in. Honestly, I've come to realize they won't show you the rent. So you might have to call some people to get an idea of what the rent looks like and deal with the hassle, the follow-up from those brokers. But that's part of the homework. I mean, you're signing a lease, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. So you're going to want to make sure that you are doing everything you can. And sometimes that might mean dealing with some, a little bit of frustration. So, all right. Now that you have the resources, you made your copy, you have the resources, you've kind of started to hit the market and you're getting a bunch of sites, right? So either you're finding these sites on your own, you're going on LoopNet, you're traveling around with a broker. And honestly, guys, I know that a lot of these brokers do not provide tracking information, right? They just give you the flyers and they expect you to kind of keep track of all the info. So I know it goes something like this. They'll email them to you. A lot of you guys want to print them out, or you're looking at them on your computer and you have all the data. You have all the flyers, the pretty flyers. They all look great. You have the floor plans, you have the pictures, maybe you put some notes on these, but how are you actually going to come to make a decision? And in that whole frustration of trying to remember what happened here, like what kind of TI package is being offered here, and what exactly is the rent on this one, and what did he say they were willing to do with the HVAC? This is going to be your best friend. So I'll tell you exactly how I use it. So when I'm out touring, right, I don't have my laptop, I don't have an iPad. Taking my phone out always seems like not a good look, but I will make voice notes. So if I'm in a site and we're at, let's just say, We're looking at the tracker here. We're at 123 Main Street, right? And it's 2,200 feet roughly. And there is an issue with the outdoor seating. I'll just say, hey, 123 Main Street, outdoor seating. We need a special permit from the town. They say it costs about $1,500. Look into it. Rent seems like he's flexible, and we can negotiate based on market rents, et cetera, right? So I'll make those notes so when I go back in here, I can just listen to it and plug them back in. Now, of course, if you don't want to look like a fool, but what you think looks foolish, just save all the flyers, handwrite it on the notes, and when you go home, plug them into the trackers. What we have here is pretty self-explanatory. Up here at the top, put your restaurant name. I have to put the restaurant name because I'm dealing with multiple restaurants. You obviously, if you only have one restaurant, don't need to do that, but I would suggest putting in the market name and what you're searching for. So I would put here, I have Cleveland, Ohio. I would in there also have the square footage that you're looking for, and also any other kind of site specific stuff that you are concerned about or really want to make sure that you're getting when you sign the sites. Put that up at the top. And then all you're going to do is you're going to ignore the viability column for a second. Put the name in the center, if there is a name, the address, the size. Outdoor seating is a drop-down menu. Okay, yes, no, to be determined, meaning sometimes the broker doesn't know, sometimes the landlord doesn't know, so you got to do some homework on your own. The type of real estate it is it inline, meaning is it in a strip center, somewhere in the middle? Is it an end cap, end of that strip center? Drive-through, self-explanatory, standalone, meaning just sat right out there in the middle or towards the front of the shopping center. Pad site that you're gonna have to develop. Not a lot of you guys are probably gonna do that. Also a land or build to suit kind of thing. A pad site also could obviously be a pad that has an existing space on it. Then you're gonna go to rent. So listed here as per square foot. So the per square foot rent, the triple nets, if there are any. If it's a gross rent, just you can take that out. It calculates the gross rent monthly, gross rent annual, very helpful. And then in here is something that you can customize as well. So it's a formula. I suggest leaving it at this number, but if you want to adjust it based on your concept, obviously it's your world, do what you got to do. But this will calculate the sales you need to do to get an 8.5% rent ratio. So in this example, I had $5 here, I think. It's a very favorable rent and unrealistic triple nets, but it says here for my 2,200 square foot space at $25 a square foot and $5 for the triple nets. Now, triple nets, as you guys know, are taxes, insurance, and can be common area maintenance. That's also per square foot. My annual rent is $67,500, and the sales I would have to do to have and maintain an 8.5% rent ratio, at least for the first year, are just under $800,000. So you know your concept. Does that make sense? Can you do those numbers? If so, that's a great indicator as to the viability of the site. We'll show that in a second. Rent commencement, meaning how long is the landlord going to give you until they start charging you rent? Are they charging percentage rent? Yes or no? Also in here, I have allowance, estimated delivery, estimated open, and then for the status, I have, is this a pass? Is it a hold? Or is it a pursue? And then contact information for the brokerage or landlord, a link you can add here to the flyer, and then any comments about the site. So again, pretty self-explanatory. I give you a bunch of different rows here. I don't think anybody's going to be looking at that many sites, but what I like about this is when you have a bunch of sites in here, you can now look apples to apples and you can compare everything and you don't have to just remember. And when somebody calls you about it and you're going back to work, you can just open up the tracker and see where you're at and what your thoughts were on the site. So that's important to me because if you're anything like me at all, you're going to get confused and you're going to forget. So you need something to refer back to. Now, the real star of this whole thing is the viability calculator. Okay. Now, I have in here the criteria, as I mentioned before, the demographics, the foot traffic, the competition, the accessibility, the visibility, the parking, the area amenities, and the rent expense. So demographics, meaning it should be self-explanatory, but let's just talk about it for a second. Who are these people, right? How much money do they make? What's their age? How many are there in this market? Are they white, Hispanic? What's their makeup in terms of their ethnicity? That's your demographics. Foot traffic, is it busy, is it not busy? How many people are walking by? Foot traffic, you guys know that one. Competition, a lot of competition or a little competition. Accessibility, how easy is it to get in and out of the site? Parking, a lot of parking, little parking. Area amenities, office parks that actually have people in them, an arena, a school, any other kind of driver to the area. What does that look like? And the rent expense. So you'll see here, we can put a number assigned to each one. Now, if you go back here to the cover, it explains exactly how that works. So when you're entering your data, you're going to enter your assessments for each one of the criteria in the input column, and you're going to use a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is not very favorable and 5 is very favorable. So the rent cost, right, is the only one that is inverted, meaning a high rent cost is the least favorable, and 5 would indicate a low rent cost. So a little bit of a backwards thing that you have to remember there, but you'll see it reflected in the score. Demographics. First, actually, let me talk about weight. So I put in these suggested weights, okay? I have put in how much each one of these individual items, this should be, by the way, 0.20, how much weight I would give to each one. I have 0.2 for demographics, 0.25 for foot traffic, and so on all the way down the line. This is all subjective, right? I can't tell you what you think of the demographics. I could very well think they're a 4. You could think they're a 3. I could think the competition's a 4, and you could think it's a 1. It's what you think, right? You're the decision maker. Obviously, if you have a team, you're going to get the input from your team, and hopefully you have a trusted broker who can advise you on this as well. But I suggest this really be yours. This way you have one guiding light as you look at the market and you look at all these sites, and you can price them all, or I'm sorry, score them all, and know that that is your gut as it pertains to that particular site. I put 3 in here, so you can do 3 at a time. Okay, where 1 at a time is a little bit annoying to do, but you do 3, score the 3 that you have. You can put the address here. You can obviously cut and paste these and do 6 or 12 if you want. And then you're going to take that rating, okay? So you'll see, let's just look at this first one here. I have demographics at 4. If I change it to a 2, I change that to a 1, and I change that to a 2, and this is the rest are all 1s, it's switched to a low, okay? But if I think these are all great, it's going to go to a high. So you're then going to take that score and move it over here, okay? That's it. It is a very simple tool, but it's going to keep you organized, and it's also going to be a way that you start to think, right? It's one of those things that as you use them, you're going to realize, okay, I'm actually putting some thought. I'm putting some process around this. It's not just throwing a bunch of crap at the wall or feeling emotional about a site. That is what amateurs do, okay? You are going to be attacking a market, tracking sites, and scoring them for your own reference because it's your business. And you're going to sign a gigantic lease, and you want to make sure that you are tracking all the details correctly. So things could change, right? Dynamics could change. The landlord could say, oh, you know what? I'm going to actually give you more TI. All that type of stuff. You can change even the criteria if you want. You can add criteria. You can add TI on there. Whatever you think is super important for your business, please feel free to change it and use it whatever you think is best. Now, I want to remind you that this is best sort of talked about and discussed in a group setting or really one-on-one if you'd like. So if you want to discuss your site tracker, you want to load up a bunch of sites, put the links to the flyer in there, you can schedule a call with me and I will gladly review those sites with you and we can talk about it together. That is something that I feel is of tremendous value because, as I mentioned, you might not be getting subjective feedback. You might not be getting feedback that is objective, right? You might have a broker who's invested in getting paid. You have a landlord who really wants you to go there because they love your food or they heard great things about you or they saw your social media. But you need somebody to help guide you on the metrics of the site and does it make sense for your business. So please feel free to click the link in my bio and we can review these sites together. That's about it. That's it. You guys are out there on your own with this, and hopefully it's a process that you can implement quickly. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. We can talk about it. I don't want you making the mistake of signing a lease without doing this. Okay, so give it a shot. If you have a site that you are even close to signing a lease on, do me a favor, do yourself a favor, do your team a favor, do your family a favor, and run the numbers here. Make sure it makes sense for you. And don't sign that lease until you do so. And you can thank me later. You can thank yourself later. You can thank your team later for the effort that you put in now. And I just really hope that this helps you make a more informed decision. And if it does, let me know. I would love to know what that looked like for you guys, that maybe it opened up your eyes to something that you weren't aware of, or maybe it showed you something that you didn't want to see about a site that you're really emotional about. That happens all the time too. But either way, I hope it is useful for you. I said a long time ago, I haven't said in a while, but my goal here is really to increase the success rate of restaurants in this country. And in my humble personal opinion, it all starts with the real estate. All right, guys, have a great weekend. Thank you so much for checking out the show. Thank you for downloading the calculator, and I'll see you guys next week.